It's time for the Brown Sports Bag on WCLU, the official local sports show here in Glasgow and Barron County. And now, alongside John Butler, here is your host, James Brown.
Welcome back again this week, the Brown Sports Bag, presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. And as I mentioned last week, yes, football is still going on. It's playoffs, and yet we're less than a month now from basketball season. And so we had a couple of coaches in last week, and this week we have in Brandon Stockton, the head coach of the Glasgow Scotties, to talk about the team, some of which is still playing football, so that makes things a little bit different for him. But, you know, before we came on, we discussed the fact that the last time Glasgow was undefeated this deep into the football season was 2011, and that wasn't not a bad season for you guys. I think you were an assistant to Jeff Hall at that time, Coach Stockton.
I was, so hopefully a little bit of that winning mentality carries over to basketball.
Yeah, and I think, you know, sometimes that's kind of the deal, right, is you're trying to figure out how to really bring in that mentality from the football field. I mean, then that year they made it all the way to the football state championship game. And, I mean, this team is playing well enough. They might make a run that deep, and then that gets you the weekend before your season tips off, right?
Yeah, not that, you know, that's what I like as a coach. But, hey, I'm very happy for my players and the football team, and I wish them much more success and a deeper run. So.
Yeah, so but part of that is if you have players coming in and they've had success in one sport, sometimes that does translate to another sport. They come in with a different level of confidence, even if their skill level isn't quite there yet, or their conditioning isn't quite there yet, or they're trying to get over some nagging injuries. Like mentality-wise, they come in thinking of themselves as winners, right?
Yeah, and we can always accept that. You know, the conditioning and all those little things we can work with, but, you know, the winning mentality is what we always want as coaches and that attitude. So as long as they come in with that good attitude, we'll be okay.
So last year was your first year as the head coach of the program. You've been an assistant a couple of different times, and I think you led the middle school program at different times. But what are some things that you learned as the man in the hot seat versus watching the man in the hot seat?
There's a lot more responsibility to it that nobody really sees.
Yeah.
Besides just coaching.
Right.
You know, scheduling and rosters and interviews and all the things that people don't really think that, you know, goes on before a coach. But that's the tedious part of it, just having a lot of other little things that I have to do besides just coaching a basketball team.
Yeah. Did you learn to maybe delegate some of that stuff, or did you say, well, in practice, I'm got to be responsible for these things, and maybe delegating some practice responsibilities to other people? I mean, which way did you kind of go?
Yeah, you know, the practice responsibilities, you know, we do kind of share amongst the coaches. And my big thing was always to let my coaches be involved with coaching. That way that makes them stronger as coaches. The players aren't just hearing my voice during the games and during practices. A lot of the paperwork stuff, again, is, you know, the head coach has to do it. You know, they want the head coach to do it and things I have to do. But, you know, the practice part, my assistants make it pretty easy for me.
Did you develop maybe different practice strategies once you figured out the other things that you were going to have to take care of on a day-to-day basis, or did anything change there?
Not really. You know, I always try to plan ahead. And, you know, based off on what I wanted to do that day, if I think a coach is good at demonstrating or explaining certain things, I'll let that coach take over. Of course, I'm always there to step in at any time and give instruction and stuff, but I try to, you know, let at least one or two of my coaches at times take over a section of practice and give instruction.
One more question related to this. And you probably dealt with this as an assistant coach. I mean, you were obviously a very successful high school basketball player and a self-motivated high school basketball player. You don't get to be Mr. Basketball without those things, right? But for players, I mean, is it kind of a struggle sometimes for you coming from that particular mentality and seeing the potential a player can have and trying to get them to understand how much work it actually takes?
It is, especially in this generation. You know, I had a talk with my players the other day, and I said, I expect you guys to kind of want to love the game the way I did. I know that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I don't have those expectations.
Yeah.
You know, my expectation is maximum effort, period. There's no exception in between. You don't have to be as good as Brandon Stockton was, right? But I expect you to play as hard or want to play as hard as I did, not for your name, but for the name on the front.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the other thing is they can't reach their full potential unless they put forth that full effort, right?
That's correct.
All right. John, you got any questions?
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by this. 3 weeks before Mark Pope's first game, or Kelsey at Louisville, I don't think a reporter would ask him, how's practice like when you don't have half your players?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's going on right now. We were talking off air. You have 10 players right now in practice, right?
That's correct.
And I'm not, a lot of I think it's fair to say, a lot of the key returning players from last year are still playing football.
Mm-hmm.
What's just kind of describe, and from a former coach, I assume there has to be just a lot of skill development. What is going on right now in practice with so many players, not only because you got a game in 3 weeks, and it's very conceivable that you may not have a bunch of your roster even back at that time. So how do you develop your practice and things with so short of amount of players?
A lot of it is skill work. We spend a whole lot of time with skill work, really. Getting stronger and just getting the reps in. The confidence comes from the reps.
Yep.
The more reps they get, then when it comes for those guys to come in from football, these guys will be ready. And I tell them every day.
You're going to rely on them for a while.
That is correct. Yeah. I told them the other day, I said, we're about to start a scrimmage next week, first scrimmage next week. And I said, I'm not planning to have my football players. So I got 10 guys that are going to be on varsity. And I said, you guys got to be ready to participate and play. Mm-hmm. So I've got to get these 10 guys ready.
It's a great opportunity for those guys, right?
Exactly. The more reps they get, and it's going to help them in the long run. Granted, when some of those football players come in, some of the guys that are going to be playing a lot of minutes here early in the scrimmages and stuff may not get as many minutes, but they've got the reps.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll know the confidence they'll have to be able to step up, because it's always that next man up mentality, because we never know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great opportunities for these 10 guys right now to get a lot of reps in and just to build that confidence in their game.
If I was one of those guys, I would want to make it as hard on you as possible to play as good as I could when these others come in. I want it to be a tough choice.
You just took the words out of my mouth, really. that was my statement.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to make it hard on me, and that's a good thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where practices have been here lately.
Well, I was going to say it's not the optimal way to build depth, but you get depth out of it nonetheless, because you do get to see some guys in game situations to see how they respond to these things.
That's exactly right. And that goes all the way. I mean, this is freshmen all the way up through seniors.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I've got a lot of players out there on the football field, and, we're excited to get them, but we also want them to go as far as they can. And these guys are just working very hard. And I tell them, you can't worry about the football players right now. You got to worry about yourself. It's you versus you.
Yeah. On your roster, I guess one of the upsides is you have a couple of guys or 3 or 4 guys who are pretty big. I mean, you got some good-sized guys like Landon Minton coming back. I guess Draper Allen's a pretty big kid too.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever Jarrett gets there, he's not big like them, but he is long and athletic. And I don't know about some of the other guys. I mean, I guess Carter Hodges is probably about 6'4". Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you got some lengths on this team.
Mm-hmm. Carter's very athletic. Draper's his skill work has come a long way. And Landon, of course, has played some big minutes and big roles in the past couple of years. So, I mean, those guys have all had big minutes. And you got Jackson Norris, too, you throw in there as a guard position. So, it's not that I'm not, those guys, I'm hurting for my football players. I do have some experience still on my roster at the current moment. But, again, these guys, the reps is what's going to make the confidence. So, that's what I preach every day. And I hope that, these reps that they're getting now carries over.
Yeah. Now, other than Jarek Martin and Jalen Bradley coming from the football team, I think there's Jeremiah Moore. Who are the others that might come from football?
Yep, you got Grayson Bartley. You got Keyshawn Austin, Cabron Jones, Brad Smith, Travis Collier, Trace England, the backup quarterback. So
okay.
I mean, I've got a few of those guys, that are still out there. And who knows who else will show up?
Right. That's something else that kind of happens sometimes. You have some success in one sport, and you got guys they may have played in middle school or freshman year or whatever, and they like that feeling now, and they're like, hey, I think I'm going to play basketball. And you're
exactly.
thanks for coming.
Exactly.
Because you never know.
Who knows? So we'll just wait and see, and when that day comes, I'll handle it then.
So right now, you mentioned you have a scrimmage next week. You don't plan on having the football players next week. If you were looking at this 5 that you're going to have out there next week, I mean, who would be the starting 5, or are you even kind of looking at that yet?
I have. It's always a thought because the football team's been pretty good all year.
Yeah.
So I've already had this kind of thought in my head. But, you got Jackson Norris, Landon Minton, Carter Hodges, and then we've got Bryson Sublet's been pretty good for us. And then Aiden Fry's a guard that I think he came out and played his freshman year. He's a senior this year, but he's shown a lot of upside in a guard position.
Okay.
Can shoot the ball, can handle it, good defender. He might be a surprise this year for us. So he's been fighting for that spot in minutes as well.
Okay.
I know last year, your record wasn't exactly the way you wanted it to, though you finished good. You upset Warren East in the first round in the district, and you were very competitive in the district finals against Barron and so forth, got to the region tournament. And to me, watching you last year, you were just, even during games at times, was inconsistent. You have a really good half and then a bad quarter that would kind of really throw you off and so forth. Where do you want to see the most improvement from this year, from last year to this year? What's the improvement that you're searching for the most, you think?
Well, I've talked a lot about basketball IQ. It's a little different. When I played, guys were playing every day.
Yeah.
You could find us at the park. You could find us at the YMCA. We were just learning how to play the game. A little inconsistency things happen a lot with basketball IQ. If you get a turnover or something, you come back down, take a bad shot. Well, that's basketball IQ. Now you got to get a good shot. They might make a 4-6 point run. I need to get a good shot, and then we take another terrible shot, right?
Or a guy hit a couple of threes. You may want to go to him.
Yeah, so it's just
like
basketball IQ, a lot of it. And like you said, we would be in a half, and with really good teams.
Right.
And you would be thinking, like, man, where's this team been all year? And then all of a sudden, one quarter, and it's like it goes downhill. And so I've been fighting the basketball IQ and mental toughness because adversity is a big thing. These guys don't always know how to handle. And we preach it a lot. You got to be able to handle the adversity because we own a lot of road games this year too. So
right.
I'm trying to get that schedule worked out. But, again, we're on the road a lot, and it's going to just be some adversity.
Well, and I guess going back to last year, the funny thing is, 2 years in a row when Coach Buford was there and then your first year as well, you guys won the game that counted, but it was a case of people would look around and say, I knew that team was that good. It's just – they just never seem to get it during the regular season. So I guess that's part of the challenge too. How do you get your players to play like every game is the first round of the district?
Well, that comes with practice too. You've got to just kind of drill it into them. Kids are still going to be kids. You don't know what goes on outside their lives.
Yeah. When
they come to the gym, you might be their only saving grace.
Right.
Mentally. So there's a lot of factors that go into that, but as a coach, I just try to do my best to just try to be there for them and make sure they're mentally ready to prepare to play the game.
Yeah, let's talk about your schedule a little bit because you open at Somerset on December 2nd, and then Greenwood at home, Bowling Green at home, and then North Hardin at Barron County. I think all 4 of those teams are pretty good. So that's an interesting opening. Is this? Are you just look at it and say baptism by fire situation for this team?
When I took over, I told guys I'm not going to shy away from competition.
One of John's favorite things.
Yeah, the 4th region is as good as any region in the state.
Yeah.
It's been proven time and time again. And so if we want to be able to compete in the 4th region, we're going to go play the good teams.
Right.
And so that's the only way we can evaluate ourselves and, get us a score of how good we really are is play the good ones.
I guess this year – you don't want to have the same record you had last year, but your schedule looks like you could get to the end of the year and people might ask questions about your record and your team actually be much better than it was last year. Is that kind of how you look at this?
That's a fair statement. That is a fair statement. I see some games in there that we can actually compete in.
Yeah.
I like my team. I like my chances. We had a pretty good summer from what I saw of the summer. And I'm pretty sure we can compete with just about every team. And it's just all about getting prepared for it and being mentally focused and competing.
Yeah. John?
No, I was – you kind of asked the question that I was kind of thinking, and it's probably going to be a year where, with the, we've already mentioned the football players and things like that, it may just take a while to kind of get their legs under them and kind of get the practice and reps and so forth. It may be just one of those deals where it's where you're starting to build as the year goes on and so forth. And I'm sure that's kind of what you're hoping for and what's probably going to happen.
Yeah, I mean we're always planning for that end of the year. All these are basically practices.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it counts as my record, but at the end of the year, you're playing for a district title, trying to get to the region, playing for a region title, and a chance to go to state. So that's what you're really playing for. Regardless of what your record may say, if you can do those things, nobody else forgets the record.
All right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 years have kind of been a race. People probably couldn't think of Glasgow's actual record. They just know you guys made it to the region both years.
Yeah, and then if you thought about the record, you would think, they didn't do anything for the year.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, he's playing the top teams in the fourth region. When you got Bowling Green and Warren Central on your schedule, that's two of the top. They're top 20 teams. But also when you go to the fifth, you got Adair, who's a two-time regional champions with two big-time transfers in.
Correct.
And you got Caverna, who's arguably top 10 in the state, right? Yeah, and then I noticed down there Apollo is going to be one of the better teams in the third.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it is it's a serious schedule right there.
Right.
It is. So.
I guess anything else you want folks to know? I got one quick question. So you mentioned the scrimmage. You have one next week. Where is that and when is that?
So next Tuesday we scrimmage at home at 6 o'clock. We play the Bluegrass Blazers. It's always a good scrimmage for us. Those guys like to come in and compete. I think they gave us a really good game, our first scrimmage last year. So they like to come in and compete. And then the Saturday, next Saturday, we go to Russell County to play. We play Russell County. So
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Anything else you want folks to know?
Just come out and support us and try to pack the gym for these kids this year.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Coach Stockton, for joining us and talking about the Glasgow Scotties. This is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Welcome back to the Brown Sports Bag. James Brown and John Butler, presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. I want to thank Glasgow Scotties basketball coach Brandon Stockton for coming in here and talking to us about his team that he knows has right now. What did he say? He has 10 players?
10 players.
Yes, because a third of the team is still on the football team, and they will be out there at the rate they're playing right now. They could be out there for a little while, and I guess we hope they are. I mean, we certainly hope they are out there for a little while. They're having a great season. And speaking of that, they didn't have much to worry about from Webster County on Friday night. They beat them 56-0. I think there were three things about that game that were most impressive. The first one was Jalen Bradley's first punt return for a touchdown, which was, if you've not seen that, you need to go watch that. Maybe we need to clip that for a highlight reel because that's one of the best punt returns. It was almost in slow motion because of the field conditions. It had rained so much. And every time you thought he was either down or had stepped out of bounds, he just kind of stopped and would start running again. And just it was a crazy. And then another one was Drake Reeves, I think is his name, scooped up a fumble and returned it for a touchdown at the end of the game. He's a reserve defensive/offensive lineman. Probably the only touchdown he'll score his entire high school career, depending on what happens. But the ball just landed in his hands, and he ran it back for a touchdown. And the other was just the general overall performance of both the offense and defense in those field conditions were pretty outstanding. So there are things to talk about from the game. It's just not so much the game itself, John.
Yeah, 56-0, and it was 42-0 at halftime, so it wouldn't have been close. And the field was muddy and sloppy, and generally that kind of evens things up. But, but Webster County looked even slower than they are, to be honest with you.
It really did.
It didn't do a whole lot of evening it up. Glasgow just a much, much better football team, more athletic and so forth, and kind of like we mentioned the other day too. They scored every way you can score. Punt returns, defensive touchdowns, rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean the same crew for the most part. Jalen Bradley and Jarek Martin and throw in Jeremiah Moore on a touchdown catch. Hudson Gunn was like 4 for 4, 77 yards. Campbell had 70-something yards rushing. So, they after an double overtime win against Franklin, they probably it was really good to have kind of a quote-unquote easy game against Webster County. I mean, that game was over at halftime, running clock in the third quarter. So not a lot of nerves in that one. They went out and like they've taken care of their business. All the games they should just blow out teams. They've taken care of business this year. I think give Coach Arnett a lot of credit too for he has them ready to go regardless of who they're playing.
Yeah, it does set up a fascinating game this coming Friday against Union County.
Seems like they play Union County every year in the playoffs here in the last 5 years.
Yeah, they've been going to Union.
Generally to Union County.
Yeah. This year they get to host Union County. Now, look, last year when Union had that kid, what was his name, Justin Johnson or Jasper Johnson or whatever, I mean, nobody could tackle that guy. I mean, he racked up yards against everybody they played against. They're not the same team. They don't have that player this year, Union County, that is. But they are good, and I think they're probably better than it looks like just in general. The only thing is they don't really throw the ball. And that's not surprising. They have a kid named Willem McPeak as a running back who has 1,336 yards and 16 touchdowns this year. But they've used 2 and sometimes 3 different quarterbacks in games. And so –
Yeah, when you tell me that without seeing Union County, that kind of somewhat reminds me of Franklin a little bit.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to beat Glasgow, you better be balanced.
Yeah.
I mean, you better be able to run it and throw it because Glasgow's just too good defensively.
Right.
And I haven't seen anybody that's going to shut Glasgow down anyway. So Glasgow's going to score. So I think the really, really good teams can do both.
Yeah.
And that's what makes Glasgow really effective and so forth. So, if Union struggles to throw, that's not going to be good. Even though Glasgow's pass defense is really good, you still need somewhat of a threat, in my opinion.
Yeah, you can't just let them load the box and dare you to run against them. It doesn't work.
It generally doesn't work that way.
No, and this goes back to what we were talking about before the Franklin game. This is the benefit of playing that Franklin-Simpson game, winning the game in the way that they did. They spent 3 quarters unable to do anything, and Franklin looked like they were doing whatever they want and primarily running the football. And so now they've had that experience, that they hadn't had in a while, that they know they can't make early mistakes. They can't give away free plays. They've got to be focused from the get-go. And in a way, Union County probably would like to be able to say, hey, man, Glasgow didn't play anybody at the end of the season, and now we're going to come out there and surprise them. But Glasgow's had that experience now, and they're ready for it.
That's right.
And so I'm curious to see, because I do think one of the things I do think Union County will be that even Franklin wasn't in a way is probably more physical, probably throwback to more like the game against Barron or Monroe. They're going to be a bigger, more physical team because they just generally historically Union's pretty good physically. They just usually don't have like outside speed talent and that kind of stuff. So it may be they're more like that these days, but they will be a more physical team than Glasgow's probably played in a while. So I'm curious to see how that part comes across.
And that game is going to be Friday. It's not a Thursday game,
Yeah,
right?
it's Friday at Glasgow.
Okay.
They haven't moved it yet.
Okay.
I don't think Glasgow's going to move any of their games.
Okay.
They're going to play them. But, yeah, it'll be an interesting game, I do believe. Meanwhile, the Barron County Trojans, I think I guess the injuries, if you just get right down to it, they lost at Apollo 19-7 on Friday night, and the bottom line, I do believe, is the injuries finally just caught up with them. If you look at 3 of the games they lost, the game with Macon County, Tennessee, and Greenwood, those games, if you have all of your regular dudes, they probably win all 3 of those games. But, Dalen Thomas going out in the Greenwood, getting hurt in the Greenwood game. They lost Ethan Bertram in that game. They'd already lost Jordan Harris in the first game of the season. And now you're starting to ask people to play more than you wanted them to. Braxton Carnes and Corbin Wells especially on both sides of the ball. Probably even Jackson Bird a lot more than you wanted him to, even though he was already going to start both sides. You don't really have anybody to spell them. Then in the game, Shelton gets hurt on the second play of the game.
Yeah.
And so you lose your other wide receiver threat, to take some of the pressure off of Bird. And it just, Barron, I thought played well in the game. They just couldn't. They just couldn't finish it.
Yeah, they outgained Apollo. You're talking about moving it from the 20 through the 20.
Yeah.
I mean, Barron had over 200 yards of just rushing.
Yeah.
Again, Corbin Wells had he had 117 yards, and Briggs Harris had 81 on the ground, and Braxton Carnes had 58. And then you had two more guys with 40 or more.
Yeah.
So they moved it between the 20s, but once they got inside the 20, they only scored one time. That was on a Jackson Bird touchdown run, and they fumbled once and had a penalty here and just kind of got stopped. That's where they got bogged down.
Yeah.
But in many ways, it was kind of similar to several of the losses. The only loss they got blown out was Bowling Green.
Yeah.
And other than that, all of these games looked like to me in the second half could have gone either way.
Yep.
And that's kind of what this game was like, to be honest with you. It could have gone either way. It was tied in the third quarter, and Barron had knocked out the quarterback for Apollo, and that quarterback was really, really good. Max Johnson was really, really good. He was 10 of 13 for 154 yards when he went out.
Yeah.
But their backup quarterback was the coach's son. They just continued to run the same offense. You know, they threw for 260 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But Barron was – you know, it was just some years it seems like every break goes your way.
Yep.
And injuries are they occur in football, but it depends on who they occur to.
Yes.
And that's and this year a lot of, you mentioned their key players were, Jordan Harris and Dalen Thomas played on both sides of the ball, so that's 4 spots.
Yeah.
You know, when they get when they're out, you're having to replace sometimes with 4 different players, and that's a big loss. You take that away from most teams. You take away most teams two of their top 4 or 5 players.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to overcome that, and I give them a lot of credit because they hung in there, and just really couldn't get over the hump, but. They didn't have a lot of seniors, only lose 6, I believe.
Yeah.
But those are really good players, though.
Right.
But they got a ton of players back, and, I think the future looks pretty good. But Dalen Thomas and Jackson Bird's a big component they're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's a good player. Braxton Carnes came back from missing all last year, and he was the second leading tackler at the linebacker, and also – he turned into a really good running back. You know, he had to carry the ball. Wells and Carnes, the 2 linebackers, were the 2 starting running backs.
Right.
And rarely came off the field. They lose them. They don't lose Wells. Luckily, he's back. But Steele Whitaker, I think Cam Crawford, Grayson Billingsley, the lineman who played on both sides. I mean, those are 6 really good players right there that are going to be missed. But Barron still is going to return a lot of good players. Yeah,
it's going to be an interesting situation, I think, because, last year they had a good group of seniors. Myers coaching and his staff put together a good plan. And as you mentioned, things went their way. I mean, you can go back to several games last year when they made their run when things could have gone sideways. And this year, as you mentioned, sometimes it just bounces the other direction. It seems like pretty much every situation was that way this year, both in the injuries and plays within games where, you look at situations and you're like, last year those went our way and this year they didn't. But the upside is they'll bring back a bunch of guys with experience next year. They will have been sophomores on a team that made a run,
Some freshmen.
Some were freshmen.
Yep.
This year they will have the taste of, when things don't go their way. And the question is, next year, do they come back like that with that experience and with the mindset of we were better than we were last year, and they come back and they're like the leaders and the program continues in this forward pace that it's been on the last couple of years. And that's going to be interesting. I mean, we can talk about the coaches all day, but it really is about the players and their mindset when they show up.
Coaches are important.
Yep.
Scheme and preparation and things of that nature, but it's still, you got to have the players, got to have those guys, and Barron's 7th grade was undefeated. 8th graders, I think, lost 2 games, and freshman JV were really good. So the things are there and so forth. It was just one of those years where they were really, really, really close, and
Right.
and 5 and 6 is a little deceiving, to be honest with you, record wise. They lost to, their schedule was really good. That team out of Tennessee is really, really good.
Yeah.
It may be the best Greenwood team that's Greenwood's had in a long time, and Barron was ahead in the third quarter and gave up the kickoff return.
Right.
I mean, Glasgow is 11-0, and Barron was tied with them in the second half, right?
Yeah.
So, they were very, very competitive and played well, and just came up a little short.
Yeah. Well, it'll be an interesting. If you're a Trojans fan, the future is bright. That's for certain. Anything else on the high school football that stood out to you from the first Friday of the playoffs?
The only thing, Monroe had a scare, and I did not think Monroe would have any trouble with that team out of Louisville.
W.B. Dubois.
That's correct, but it took a touchdown pass in the waning seconds to get Monroe within one, and Coach Pettit rolled the dice. He just went for two.
Yeah.
And they scored at the buzzer basically to come back and win 29-28, and that game was closer than I thought, but give Monroe a lot of credit for coming back and getting that win.
I would love to go check the film on that. I wonder if he ran his patented tight end drag to get the 2-point conversion.
Don't know, but it went to Knuckles is the one that caught it. I think Williams is the one that scored on the 2-point conversion. So,
got you.
So big win for them.
Yeah. I think one other thing we talked about, well, we didn't, but the district that Caverna's in, none of their teams won their first-round games. They all lost.
Same as last year, too,
yes,
right?
And I believe the year before that as well.
Right. No, it's not surprising. Yeah.
No, that other district is really strong. Is a really strong one. It might be the best 1A district.
True, and Caverna's district this year was weak.
It was very weak. Caverna wasn't as good as anticipated. Russellville was all right, but they played a tougher schedule, so their record was a little deceiving.
Right.
But none of them were good enough to win any of those games. And then, of course, Ballard Memorial didn't even bother playing, so they didn't go to Campbellsville. Campbellsville got a bye. And I think that's all that really stood out to me. You mentioned the Greenwood. They beat Madisonville North Hopkins.
Good win. Yep.
Yeah, I think it was 21-18. Is that what it was?
That's right.
I mean, that was Madisonville North Hopkins, despite their loss to Apollo during the regular season. I think they probably were the second-best team in that district.
Yeah, we mentioned beat Paducah Tillman.
Yeah, and so, I think, as you mentioned, I think Greenwood is like – they're real close. I mean, I would not be surprised to see them and Bowling Green in that regional final or get to that regional round. I don't know what the RPI would put them at, but, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see them go to Owensboro and win the game.
Me either.
So
tall test. Owensboro's really good.
Yeah, right. But, yeah, it wouldn't be a shocking thing for them to win. All right, that's Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Welcome back to the Brown Sports Bag. James Brown, John Butler, presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. John, do you want to start with the good news or the bad news of college football? And I think you know what I mean.
Let's go.
Well, which one you want?
I don't care. Let's go.
Fine.
Hit me with it.
All right. We'll start with the good news then.
Okay.
The good news is somehow Stoops seems to accidentally save his job repeatedly, and he may have done so again. And I say that because I know he started Cutter Boley a few weeks ago, but one of the teams that Kentucky has to beat, and for people to go, yes, we're on the right track, is Florida. And they didn't just beat Florida; they beat Florida like they stole something. And Cutter Boley was outstanding.
Yeah, they're going to be in a dilemma for those who are convinced that Stoops has to go.
Yeah,
is that they're going to. They've won back-to-back SEC games at Auburn and Florida, and they've done it with a freshman quarterback who seems to me to have turned the corner and actually looks like a competent to a quarterback or above-average freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
And now, listen, people sometimes when they see schedules, they overreact. You can't predict at the start of the year who's really going to be good.
Yeah.
I mean, Auburn has fired their coach.
Yeah, Hugh Freeze.
Hugh Freeze.
My least favorite
and now
coach.
they're like 3-6 or something like that. So, beating them is not the greatest thing in the world.
Right.
Florida has fired their coach.
Uh-huh.
And they'll play good sometimes and play awful, and Kentucky destroyed them.
Yeah.
So those two losses are not, to me, totally unexpected. I thought they'd beat Florida.
Yeah.
I really did.
Florida's in total disarray.
They're in total disarray. So that doesn't surprise me. They're going to beat Tennessee Tech this week.
Yeah.
And then they'll end up with Vanderbilt. It'll be a tough game. Vanderbilt's really good, and Louisville's good, but they're susceptible to losing at times. So, but Kentucky is going to be. It's going to be a dilemma to what to do, because sometimes you want to marry your quarterback to the coordinator and head coach. So there's several questions they're going to have to answer. Do we keep Coach Stoops?
Yeah.
And if you keep Coach Stoops, does that mean the Bowles kid is going to stay?
Yeah.
Bowles. I keep saying Bowles. Bowley.
Yeah.
Is Bowley going to stay, or is Bowley going to test the market now that he's gotten
Right.
good? Maybe he just wants to leave.
His value's gone up.
His value's gone up, and maybe he wants to get away from Kentucky to a more pass-friendly offense. There's a lot of question marks to go over.
Yeah.
But right now, Coach Stoops is in a lot better position today than he was 2 weeks ago. I think that's fair.
Yeah, and I do think. I mean, we carry the Matt Jones and his folks on this station here every morning, and I don't always listen to their conversations. But 3 weeks ago, their conversation was Stoops is gone. He's got to go. He's out of here. We can't keep him. We got to change. And I imagine their conversation, at least part of it this morning, was they were discussing how good Bowley is, and that question: did Stoops once again luck into saving his job? Because a few years ago, he had to go. He was out of here and all that, and then he accidentally found the right quarterback.
Yeah.
And they had a great season off that. Actually, he did it, I think, twice, because he did it with Will Levis as well. Accidentally found the right quarterback.
It's real easy to want somebody gone when you don't have to pay the $37 million.
There's that. Yeah. I mean, if you want him gone, maybe they'll start passing an offering plate, and you can put some money in it.
But it's not as easy a decision as possible, because Kentucky with Bowley is in better position than a lot of teams right now in the SEC.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get right. You're right. The key is, does Bowley want to be at Kentucky?
Does he want to make a name for himself?
Yeah.
At Kentucky, the hometown, Kentucky kid.
Yep.
Does he want, to rebuild that team where he could go down in history as one of the, as a big time Kentucky football player from home state, maybe one of the best home state quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be up there in the world of like Jared Lorenzen fame,
or
Tim Couch.
That's
yes,
right. He'd fall in that if he can continue on.
Yeah, so he does have a tough question to answer, but his answer to that question probably will have a
if it has
huge effect on the
that's
program.
where it gets complicated. If you're what you're motivated by, because I'm sure he's already getting good money. But a top-level quarterback can probably make millions. It just depends on what motivates you the most. Because he's going to get – listen, he's not going to be begging on the street for money being the starting quarterback in Kentucky.
No.
A lot of these things have to do with what you really want, values and so forth, because they're going to get paid regardless.
Yeah.
Does $2.5 million mean more to you than $2.2 million? It's million. It's just there's a lot of that.
I thought what you just said about Louisville being susceptible to losing was a perfect description of the game that they lost on Saturday.
Yeah, it's a terrible loss. I mean, they've lost 2 games this year, both at home, both in overtime.
Yeah.
To teams, Virginia is a top 20 team, but you walked away from that one going, how did we lose that one? And then Cal, who was 5-4 to come in, just a terrible loss. And for as much as I like Coach Brom, I've told you all along, I think the world of him as a coach. I don't want anybody else other than him. He'll throw in big wins, and then they throw in these losses that just scratch your head.
Yeah.
They gave up 160-something yards and 16 catches to one receiver.
That was the thing I was going to say about the game.
One receiver to a true freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
And they just seem like at times – I've never been a big fan of their defense and how they coach defense and things like that. Adjustment-wise, when they don't make a lot of great defensive adjustments. Yeah. And they gave up. Louisville got into overtime. They really had a chance to win it in regulation. They got the ball inside the 50 with about 30 seconds left with a timeout, and they got a bad penalty that pushed them out of there. And really, their quarterback's not playing good. I'll just be honest with you. Miller Moss, the USC transfer, has not played well the last 3 games, and And I think it's put a lot of pressure on Coach Braun because he's a great play caller, but the guy that's pulling the trigger is not making good throws or good reads.
Yeah.
So and their field goal kicker is great. He can make it from anywhere. So they just had to get it somewhere.
Yeah, you needed about 10 yards,
That's
12
it.
yards.
And they couldn't even get that.
Yeah.
And then in overtime, they got another questionable penalty. Even the announcer says questionable.
Yeah.
They called a block below the waist.
Yes.
And it was a block below the waist, but it was in the backfield.
Yeah.
Which normally I think is fine. And
I thought it was if you weren't engaged or they.
That's exactly right. So
and he wasn't.
Yeah. So I'm not sure why they got that, and they had to settle for a 49-yard field goal in overtime.
Yeah.
And give Cal credit, they took it and they had 4th and goal from the 3. They could kick the field goal to tie it, but they went for it and.
That game-winning touchdown pass I thought was indicative of Louisville's defense the whole night.
Yeah, threw it to the guy who's been open all night.
Yeah.
And Louisville did not double team.
Yeah, didn't shade or anything.
Didn't shade, didn't double team, didn't do anything like that. And Coach Braun, I listened to him, his press conference after the game. He was so disappointed, so mad too. He's mad at the lack of adjustments, mad at the lack of focus, mad at he didn't come out plainly and say it, but you could tell he's disappointed in the quarterback play about holding on the ball too long and things like that.
Well, and I think they had, 2 fumbles that, where they were in position to go in and score, or at least kick field goals.
Same thing against Virginia. And it just when you have an opportunity like this, when you've moved up in the polls, you're like 14th in the country.
Yeah.
Only 1 loss, and you can kind of control your destiny to lose at home for the second time in overtime. Very disappointing.
Well, and ironically, I think it was last week you said they just need Virginia to lose, and Virginia lost, they did too.
They did too.
So, they were real close to being in position to not guaranteeing a spot in the playoffs, but they were so close. Now they're on the outside looking in.
They tend to play so much better when they're the underdog, when they're not supposed to win, than when they are a favorite. They were a 19-point favorite against Cal.
Oh, my God.
And get beat.
We were going to discuss the NFL, but I think we'll take a break here and come back and talk college basketball. This is the Brown Sports Bag, presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Welcome back. James Brown, John Butler, presented by McDonald's of Glasgow. We got about 6 minutes to go here in the show. We're going to talk some college basketball. The season is underway, and tomorrow night is the marquee game, at least for the state of Kentucky, as Louisville and Kentucky play each other. I think Louisville's ranked number 11 and Kentucky's number 9, I believe.
I guess. How does anybody know? They've played, 2 games?
Yeah. I mean, look, they've played 2 games against teams that they should beat by 100, and they more or less have.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to tell. I'm not so old to remember that the first week of the season basically started with the Maui Classic.
Yes.
It's Thanksgiving weeks when people started playing, and now they're tipping off in late October, and now Kentucky and Louisville are playing.
This used to be like a Christmas game.
Yeah, absolutely. Christmas to New Year's.
Yeah.
It
was when everybody was going to be away on break and they could come to the games.
And now they're playing it before the football game. It's way you're going to ask me, what do I think? I don't know. I mean, how can you evaluate teams?
How can you name the players on these 2 teams this year?
I can't name. I can't name. Noah. What's his name from Kentucky, right? Noah, whatever played last year.
John, I can't name any of them. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I hadn't even.
Marino from Kentucky, right? Yeah. I know him, and Hadley from Louisville because he was there from last year.
Yeah.
And I think a guy by the name of Roofs or something. I don't know. I just don't. I don't follow all the preseason hype and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be one of these wild, big-time games tomorrow night. I know a lot of atmosphere. It's going to be in Louisville and Yum Center. I know it means a lot to both fan bases and so forth, but daggone, and, gives you bragging rights, I guess, for a while.
Yeah.
But it's the 3rd game of the year. I mean, that's it.
Here's the thing. Here's what happened. I was making the the clock for the show. And I was going through different things, and then it dawned on me, wait, college basketball started. And so then I said, well, nobody's played anybody. There was the hype. I mean, the teams that Louisville and Kentucky played in the preseason were more scrimmages were more impressive than the actual first two games.
Purdue and Kansas.
Yeah. But I said, well, dang, how many games have they played? And I looked, I'm like, okay, they both played 2 games. And then it dawned, I'm like, they play tomorrow night?
Yes.
And
it's ridiculous. I mean, I know they're going to say TV dictates that, but they don't totally dictate that.
No,
surely it's not. I mean, if ESPN told them to play on the moon, you can say no.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just it's too early, to be honest with you. And but I'll watch it. The whole state will watch it, and there'll be a lot of talk about it. But daggone, when in February, when March comes around, that game will
distant memory.
Distant memory. That's correct.
I guess I am curious about the fact that they're both ranked, and we talked about this with football and basketball. These preseason polls are useless.
They are. They're probably legitimately both teams in the top 20.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I'm just guessing.
But if we can't name any of them, the players, then how good do we actually know these teams are? Any of them? Because we're talking about 2 teams that we more or less keep up with,
right?
And we don't really know the teams. I mean, because I'm not a diehard fan of anybody to know the players. But even if you went across the whole top 15, not even 25, just 15 programs and tried to figure out who was playing where and how good they really were, it'd be hard to tell.
Yeah, because they're all transfers and freshmen, except for just Hanley's the only one back from last year for Louisville of note.
Yeah,
they got the Virginia transfer, the really good shooter McNeely. I know him. Kentucky just has. They have the kid from Oklahoma that's back for a second year, Obeyway or whatever. He's back, and Noah was the really good shooter from Eastern Kentucky. He's back as a sophomore.
Yeah,
and I think Garrison. Garrison is back, and now I'm starting to remember Colin Chandler.
That's it.
Yeah, Colin Chandler. I think he's a really good player too. Mm-hmm. He's got the best dunk I've seen in a long time too. He looked like Rex Chapman on that dunk, but
it's all coming back to you.
It is starting to come back a little bit, But I'm going to watch it tomorrow. But it's way overhyped this time of year.
Yeah, I mostly put it on here just to talk about the fact that because just again going back to what you said to start with, usually Maui Classic, Thanksgiving. Sometime around
high school
Christmas.
Basketball didn't start in 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and then usually that was that part between Christmas and New Year's. You knew you had Kentucky and Louisville playing each other. Everybody would gather around TV.
Right.
I was down in Mississippi before we get out of here. I was down in Mississippi one time visiting for Christmas and went to a basketball tournament, and all the coaches I used to know down there were all gathering in a room watching Kentucky and Louisville play each other.
That's right.
And I walked in, and the guy's name was Chad Harrison, and he looked at me, he goes, what are you doing here? I figured you'd be at that game. I was like, I just came down here to watch some basketball. And they're all in there watching that game, but that was part of it. Even people not associated with Kentucky and Louisville were watching that game on a Saturday in that holiday season.
I'm pretty confident in my belief that it's too early.
Yeah.
The teams they're going to play tomorrow is not going to look nothing like the team that's going to be playing in March.
Yeah,
it's going to be totally different.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting. Like I said, yes, it'll get a lot of people watching and a lot of people talking about it. We just did for entertainment value. The game itself will mean nothing other than people talking, bragging.
Would you rather your team lose and go to the Final Four or win and not make the Final Four?
If I was a fan of one of those teams and that my team lost that game and we went to the Final Four, I'd say never happened.
Yep.
All right, this is Brown Sports Bag presented by McDonald's Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
You've been listening to the Brown Sports Bag on WCLU. Be sure to join James and John again next Monday at 4 for another edition of the Brown Sports Bag.